Okay, the game is Gotham Knights. The man was Batman. He's no longer there. And
Yeah.
the butler is
there.
Alfred.
And he is still a part of it.
He is still a part of it, and Alfred is, in this game, in this reality, he's Gildart Jackson. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Andrew. How are you?
Pretty great. Pretty wonderful.
Good. Good.
How about you?
Really, really good, and excited that soon Gotham Knights is going to be coming out. Actually, I think did it get released? What is the release date? I think it's got two weeks to go. I think.
By the time this is out, maybe. Who knows?
By the time this is out,
maybe. But for everybody watching now, we got to him first.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So this is a neat game because, as you said, we are experiencing Gotham post-Batman. So tell me about that world. What's that like?
Well, the truth is, I don't really know. I mean, I've seen it. So the story of my involvement with Gotham Knights is a little convoluted, and I'm happy to tell you if you're interested in.
That's why we're here.
So, maybe 2 and a bit years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I had an audition, and I got cast in this game, which at the time was very hush-hush. They called it something else. And I didn't even know what I was auditioning for. And there were several auditions. And the final one was in LA with a bunch of people. And then I heard that I got it. And then I heard that it was the new Batman game.
That means that when you auditioned for this, you didn't know you were trying to be Alfred.
No, right? I was trying to be a butler. But as every butler, I played a butler on many occasions, and every time I just tried to be Jeeves in Jeeves and Wooster, and evidently that sold them that I was suitable for being Alfred as well as Jeeves.
It's impressive. I mean, if you're gonna play a butler, I feel like Alfred is, that's the one that you want to get.
Yeah, it was a very fun part to get. So. And I had played a butler in a TV show on ABC, a reality show. I was the fictional host called Giles the Butler.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Room Manor. My name is Giles.
So I played a butler many, many times, and the role was a motion capture job. Meaning that everything be shot in this huge studio where there are hundreds of cameras and you wear a funny suit and the cameras pick up the suit and then they turn it into who you are. And it's all very strange because So the first time I did it, they decided I'm quite tall and they decided that Alfred would be quite small. And so you film the scene, and then you immediately see it in playback up as the characters. It is not all composited, but you do get to see it. And whereas I was quite a lot taller than everybody else in the scene when we were doing it, suddenly my character was smaller than everyone. It was amazing.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was wonderful. So,
and part of that, you mentioned having to wear this suit, and that's got to be a little disorienting. It fits in all kinds of weird places. It looks like nothing else. And you're there part of the acting is like you're pretending this is a tuxedo. You're moving around. Does that change? Because some actors, the costume really gets them into character. Is that something that got in the way, or did it even faze you?
Well, I am one of those actors who like to be wearing the clothes and have the additional things that inform the characterization. But I think mostly it's the way I walk and move that informs me as an actor. And so it actually was quite fun because it was all, you had to imagine everything. But I think if my scenes hadn't been with the other actors, that would have been more difficult. I like to act with the other people, so as opposed to if it was some, so I've done a little bit of that on various shows where you have to act with nothing, and that is quite hard for me. But the reality is that I didn't have enough time to do this job in that way because along came COVID. And after the first time that we were in the motion capture studio up in Montreal, and there were to be 18 different shoots. And so we did the first one, then COVID hit, and we couldn't get into Canada anymore. So they had to cast all of the movement part with local actors from Montreal. And then I voiced what they had done. It made the job a lot more, more difficult because.
Well, yeah, as you've just said, like it's easier.
Flappers.
It's easier when you can act and react to people and the environment around you, and suddenly you're back in a booth having to imagine it all.
Well, you get to see it because a lot of it was put together, but the difficult part was the other actor had made choices, which we all do, and said the lines in certain ways, and he wasn't English. So it made it quite hard to, because just the way different people deliver lines is different, and
sure,
I had to match his intonation and the way he presented the line, which wasn't bad. It was just different than the way I would.
It's another constraint, something else to mix things up.
But maybe most of all, I was just bummed that I didn't get to do, because we had a lot of fun. It was really fun interacting with the other actors. I liked them all a lot, and that was the only time I ever met them, sadly. So we didn't have all that fun of doing the game together. Tell
me about Alfred as a character, because you're not just being yourself. As you said, you were putting on a character, and there's a quality to him that makes him Alfred. There's something consistent. What do you think that is?
Well, I think perhaps that it is also the quality that makes me get cast in these roles. Butlers are inherently sort of protectors. They not in the protecting way that Batman would beat everybody up and protect them. Sort of more paternal, making sure everything is okay for them. And I think it's just a sort of tenor that some people have. That's what they do, and it just happens to be, I think, probably the thing that I'm best at. It's not a fantasy that people want to live, to be brought up by a butler, but it is, he's a lovely guy who is always steering you in the right direction. You have no parents, and there isn't the animosity that we all at a certain sort of stages in our life, teenage years, have with parents, or frequently do. And he saves him. There's a love. It's a different kind of relationship than most people have, and yet it is one that I think we can all imagine and wish for, if tragedy struck, to have somebody come and step in to do that job.
Why do we fall? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
In the game, Batman has died. Right. There are 4 different characters that have now taken over what his job used to be. One of them is Robin, Batgirl, Red Hood, and Nightwing. And you can play all of those characters. You can sort of play the game as any one of those 4. You can't play the game as Alfred. He is at the hub where everybody comes back, and there are these interstitial animatics or little movies that take place when you finish a certain part of the game, and you go back and Alfred has a scene with one or all of the characters, and then you move off and you play some more.
So, can you tell me about that relationship? Because that's got to be different than talking to Batman. Now you're talking to Batman's disciples. You know,
Right.
Is it still a protector, paternal type of
It
relationship?
is, but with different emphasis, and all the characters have different qualities.
Sure.
And Alfred is there to sort of bolster them all up. Some of them want to quit. Some of them, feel like they can't do it, and they all need help. But in a way, Alfred is able to open his tool chest a little bit deeper and sort of help this person in one way, Robin in another, Batgirl in another, and he not only knows about everybody, and not everybody is known about by all the others, but he also he knows about Batman. He knows he worked so intimately with Batman for so many years that he knows what Batman would do in this situation. And sometimes the young saviors, the Gotham Knights, they get it wrong, and they have to be steered in another direction.
So, way into the future, like, I don't know where this game ends and where it puts all the characters, but should we expect more Gotham exploration into the future like this, where there is no Batman?
I hope so. I hope so, because that would mean that we would get to do the game again, but in the way it was intended to be done in the first place. It takes a long time, and it took an especially long time because of COVID to make these games. I mean, it's an amazing piece of industry to put this together. My part is tiny in comparison to the people who actually made it a game that you can play. If we're lucky, we'll get to do it once or twice more, and I hope we do.
I hope you do too. I mean,
Yeah.
you're somebody who brings an intensity and a real a groundedness to just about everything I've seen you in. I've seen you in plays, some television parts, short films. You do a lot. Is there anything now that you're excited to, tell people about that you're working on?
There are lots of things actually. I'm quite lucky that way. I just got cast in a new Zack Snyder movie.
Really?
For Netflix. As with everything, I don't know quite how how much I can talk about it. So anyway, that's happening. And the thing I'm most excited about, really, that I do at the moment is I do a daily reading called Fireside Reading. Every day at 5 o'clock, I sit in front of the fire, and on Instagram at Fireside Reading, I read a book, an old book. I've done many, many, many audiobooks, and I read an old book to anybody who might like to join. And I started this, so the Batman story is really, COVID and messed it up for me. But Fireside Reading is the opposite of that. It was a little bit of joy that happened as a result of COVID. Right after the lockdown, I started doing this Fireside Reading. I did it because I imagined, my mother sadly now is gone, but if she was at home in England in her little house, she'd have been incredibly lonely, because she was 90, and what would she have gotten up to? And I thought, well, she didn't love TV, but she loved to listen to the radio. She would have loved to have a live audio book of a sort of feed in front of the fire, if we could have worked out how to get her on Instagram. And so I thought, well, why don't I just start doing this? And unbelievably, 2.5 years later, I'm still doing it every day at 5. And it's grown in other ways. One of the audiobook companies that I work with heard about it, liked it, and said, why don't we do some other books professionally? The daily read is just me and my iPhone, but professionally, with the proper camera and proper crew and edited, and but the same idea, a wonderful book read to you by me in front of the fire. And we made 16 of these things. Mostly they're children's books, so like Peter Pan and Winnie the Pooh and The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And the idea for the kids, why we gravitated toward these kids' books, is that these are books that you really would like your kid to read. Like Peter Pan is just such a wonderful book. And but it's long. It's 6.5 hours long. So yeah. It's quite an undertaking. And I know I'm a dad, and I went through the age when the kids wanted to watch TV, and there's a lot of stuff that they can watch which I personally didn't really want them to watch at that age. Just stuff that was a little too violent, a little too selling them something.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get them something very simple. If ever my wife and I just needed a break, something very simple to watch. And it was very hard then, maybe easier now. Well, now you can get fireside readings, but it was very hard then to find something which was just benign and sweet, and yet sit any kid in front of the screen and they're kind of captivated, even if it's just a picture of a guy reading a story. So I've heard wonderful things about this and about my fireside readings vis-a-vis children watching it. They really enjoy it, and that is so gratifying, that because they enjoy it really because these books are unbelievably good. They've been around for 100 years for a reason.
Sure.
And they just are captivating. Albert Einstein apparently once said, if you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be really intelligent, read them lots of fairy tales, because they give the reader, or in this case the listener, the opportunity to imagine. And imagination is such an important part of our life that is in a way taken away by the movies and TV. It's all given to us. Whereas if we go into our brain, we can have these stories and act them out for ourselves. And that's, I'm not saying that any, I love movies, but yeah, I'm just saying this is another thing. And especially when kids are young.
How can people be a guest into your imagination? Where can they find you?
They can go to firesidereading.com. There is there are links there that take you to the books that the highly produced books that we're talking about. And they also take you to Instagram, and there are several books up on YouTube, and there's even a podcast. So it's sort of a hub that can send you off in any direction you want, depending on what piece of entertainment you want to.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot that we can, be entertained with from you. So if you're watching this now, keep an eye out for Gildart Jackson, maybe in a Zack Snyder movie. And certainly in Gotham Knights, a lot of really great stuff. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us today. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing all that you do.
Okay, good, Andrew. Thank you so much.